hmm Good afternoon. Welcome back to my ongoing series of books I can't recommend enough. I'm Matt Williams, and today I'm actually getting into a book that, um, to many people, I would not recommend, but it was a major cultural uh, phenomenon, Fight Club, as you can see, and it's source material. Chuck Palahniuk is a very interesting writer. He's an interesting guy who really he has garnered a lot of success with his brand of nihilism and dark humor and grittiness and social commentary. So yeah, I'm commenting on both the book and the film. And if you've seen the film, like me, more than once, several times, and I would recommend reading the book because it is the source material of it, and it is very interesting to see, yeah, where so much of the ideas came from, and also to note the differences in portrayal. So, for those who are not familiar, who haven't seen the film Fight Club, well, I'd be surprised if you are like me, a member of Generation X or what have you. It was a major cultural phenomenon. It was one of those movies from the 90s that has since garnered a lot of sarcastic representation there. It's basically, yeah, it's compared to American Beauty an awful lot, I've noticed. It's like, yeah, in the 90s, where characters in stories had jobs, had properties, apartments, and stability in their life, the translation in their lives sucked and they were looking for some kind of destructive outlet or what have you. And in fact, I actually saw both those movies as part of a double feature, and I thought it's a perfect pairing. It's interesting that, well over 20 years later, people are sort of still seeing the parallels there, right? It was a far better parallel in comparing than Oppenheimer and Barbie. What was it, Barbenheimer or something, as they were saying? I did not see the similarities at all. Anyway, the what is actually was particularly interesting about the film, it was a lot like The Matrix. Cultural phenomenon, very popular. It did seem like a lot of people came away with the wrong message, right? People who saw The Matrix thought, "Oh, so cool! Look at all the slow motion and bullet time action." It's like, yeah, but guys, come on, this is like a deeply existential idea, right? What about the commentary and how you could look at it in terms of like Marxism, in terms of, yeah, Sartre and Camus and all those dudes, postmodernist, so forth. I hate to, get into all the isms, but it was good like that because you could read into it from many different angles. And of course, yeah, it's a fun action movie and just kind of a silly concept, obviously, right? But that's part of what makes it good. There's something to make fun of too. Fight Club was the same way. People came away, a lot of them thinking that this was a good idea. Let's go start a fight club of our own. Actually, I was talking to some friends back then. They said that, yeah, their buddies, they went out and they thought this would be a good idea. They got to the parking lot, and one of the guys who was with them had a big time height and reach advantage on everyone else. That lasted about 5 seconds. I think two punches were thrown, and they realized what a stupid idea that was. Yeah, and so, yeah, Fight Club is definitely one of those films and phenomenons where people did not get the point, which is too bad. Because, in fact, Chuck Palahniuk, he's quite an interesting writer, and I've read two of his novels now and perused a few others, and seen two film adaptations of his. The first, of course, was Fight Club. Second was Choke. And one thing that I have noted is that his books are all pretty much the same, in terms of structure and style. It's always featuring an anti-hero. I think the better part of his books are all first-person narration, just somebody recounting the story of what's going on. And yeah, they do have nihilistic sensibilities, like nothing is real, nothing is true, it's all fake, it's all bullshit, right? And these are our problems. And one looking at his books there, I'd say in the woke era, they don't age well because it does look like all these books are basically splattered with white rage, right? Or how it's come to be known, right? Which is not to say racist or what have you, but privileged, right? white guys who are pissed off about the fact that, they have a perfectly normal, stable, boring life, and this has totally pissed them off, and they're doing stupid or dangerous things because of it. And yeah, it really does speak to the attitude of the 90s. It's like life is actually was pretty good in hindsight back then, well, for a lot of people. And yeah, somehow, some way, there was this countercultural thing characterized by grunge and depressing movies and all this stuff for about how young people are just so, oh, life sucks. And Reality Bites, that's another film that's pushed into this whole sort of critique. It's like that movie perfectly encapsulated that. It's like, what do you have to complain about, you 90s kids? Huh? It's like you're creating problems where none exist. Buckle up, because yeah, the 21st century is going to be really bad by comparison. Anyway, so for those who have not seen the film, yeah, it's like this is definitely one of his darker, grittier novels there. And so, yeah, basic premise is the main character, the narrator, who is never named, but he's kind of jokingly called Cornelius because he used that name as an alias, early in the story. And it's published in '96, so yeah, it's definitely got the dark humor of the '90s. And yeah, so this guy basically is suffering from incredible ennui, boredom in life, purposelessness, and he is, yeah, to boot, he's basically part of the generation of young men who were raised by single moms and really doesn't know what it means to fit into society, raised on TV as a man, raised on TV and movies and commercials and so forth. He basically figures he just sort of went through life doing what was expected of him, and he figured buying all the right stuff, all the accoutrements, and working the job and yeah, decorating your apartment in just such a way. That's what you did. That's how you built up the life. You accumulated things and so forth. So automatically, there's a very, very strong, anti-materialistic message in there, and how, yeah, this guy, he finds that, of course, there's many like him, and through a weird and questionable story twist, invents an alter ego for himself named Tyler Durden. And yeah, the film adaptation here, yeah, it was definitely one of the better movies of Brad Pitt's and Edward Norton's that I've seen. They both did a very good job with their characters and sort of portraying what drove them. And what was interesting, though, is that in the book, it is darker because the main guy, he is not quite the innocent, or one might say wimp that he's portrayed as in the movie. He's got a dark side, and that is really where Tyler came in. Tyler's not so much a wish fulfillment thing, doing all the things that this guy would never do normally, but of course he creates this alternate personality because he's so bored and unfulfilled in his life. Instead, the character in the book is enabling Tyler, like knowingly. He is the one who basically suggests to Tyler that after they've created Fight Club and they're fighting, yeah, the scene where Edward Norton beats up Jared Leto, it wasn't out of jealousy as they portray in the film. It was actually just he was getting bored with the whole Fight Club scenario, and so he told Tyler the next day after he pummeled this kid, and Tyler asks him, "Where'd you go, psycho?" And he says, "We need to either abandon this or take it to the next level because it's not enough anymore." And at that, Tyler smiles, and that was the birth of Project Mayhem. It's not something he did privately that, Cornelius, Edward Norton, sort of finding out about and is upset because he's being excluded. And also, the culminating part of the film and book is where, having realized the truth, the narrator, Cornelius, having realized that Tyler is a projection of himself, that he is an alternate personality, and that he's been doing all of these things, all these domestic terrorist things. Yeah, they are in a building waiting for a bomb to go off. But rather than blowing up a series of credit card buildings, which was a pretty inspired idea, and I especially like the fact that Tyler's saying nobody's in those buildings right now. They're, you know, night staff. We're talking custodians. We're talking security guards. We're talking night watchmen. All members of Fight Club, like us, right? They're working schlubs, so they've all been warned in advance. They've cleared out. So, yeah, the only thing we're destroying here is a symbol of corporate greed and wiping out all people's credit scores. But actually, in the book, no, they're on top of the building with the bombs in it. It's the tallest building in the city. Sort of meant to allude to like the Chrysler building with Sears Tower, the Empire State Building, right? Just the tallest building in town, a landmark and a symbol of capitalism and so forth, and consumption. And so Tyler's plan is we're going to blow this building up. We're going to die on it. And the building is filled with people, mostly space monkeys, members of Project Mayhem. And yeah, so basically the idea was we're going to go out in a blaze. But the bomb doesn't go off. Tyler inevitably chose to use paraffin in the bomb rather than something more reliable. So it was sort of a gotcha moment, setting you up. You think we're going to go down, but bomb didn't work. And rather than shooting himself and just wounding himself, kind of, sort of, we don't really know in the book, right? Rather than doing that to get rid of Tyler, he was actually, yeah, he was sort of trying to end Tyler, but also end his insane, mixed up existence. And the very last scene in the book, it involves him, the narrator, either in a mental hospital or in heaven. And I do love the way how we're not sure which here. He does indicate that, yeah, he fired his gun off and it took out one side of his face and he'd already scarred the other side. So now he has like Joker stitches. And he is talking to either a psychiatrist who's saying what you did was wrong, you're trying to kill people and so forth, and or it's God. And he resolves that, we are not people, human lives, we're not sacred. We're also not garbage, or as he was saying previously, we're not all the same decaying organic crap as everything else. But yeah, we simply are. We don't know, and you can't tell God anything about this stuff, so I don't bother. And so yeah, very nihilistic and really really quite dark when you get down to it. And yeah, but one thing that is clever about it is he's saying he's sort of hoping that he can get up and recover and get out again, but not so much, because every once in a while someone comes in with clearly a reset nose, having been broken, black eyes, or cut up lips, and they look at him knowingly, or they say, "We miss you, Tyler Durden," and he's like, "I can't get back out there. That's what awaits me. I've created this like monster of a movement," which of course, yeah, before the story comes to that crescendo, he's trying to stop. He's turning against his own creation. So yeah, the movie, they definitely tried to moralize it a bit more. They tried to make Tyler the bad one, although they did sort of tone him down a bit. It's like, no, we're not getting anybody killed here. We're not killing people. But in the book, it is strongly alleged that the human sacrifices, where he goes and finds people, and it's like, yeah, you have to make a decision. Either you go and embrace your life, like all the things you were afraid to do, or you're going to die now. But he was just bluffing, right? Yeah, I preferred that version. In the book, it's strongly alleged that no, in fact, he has sacrificed people. Ah, hey, sorry about that. I had to do this review in two parts there, and you may notice I got my hair cut in between. So, please disregard any minor differences, unless of course you couldn't tell, in which case, shame on you. Have feelings. Anyway, so where I left off, I was getting into the nitty-gritty, darker aspects of the book, and I'm good. I think you get the impression. Bottom line is I honestly, and I have a friend who chimed in again. And he and I agree. The movie was better than the book. It did a better job of just sort of capturing what was going on there. And because, in fact, in the novel, Chuck Palahniuk seemed to be more focused on just this nihilistic bent, this people characters were revolting against society because they felt misplaced and with no real meaning. And so yeah, it's like a play by Sartre, but with a lot of fist fights and domestic terrorism. Whereas the movie, on the other hand, had a more, I feel, a more valid point to make. It's like what started as a group of men who really felt like they had no way to measure themselves, right? We feel like we live in a world where we're just consumers and consumption is our thing, and we're working to live and living to work and just keep this sort of cycle of production and consumption going. We invariably get together in a basement and start punching each other and fighting each other, and that's making us feel more concrete, more alive, and we feel like this is a real way to measure ourselves, right? And that is a really timeless sort of social commentary there, right? It's like human beings in a modern society. It's something that's been explored since long before modernist literature came out. Like we are creatures that grew up and evolved in the white hot furnace of evolution and survival. We are not adept at living a life where stress is slow and eats away at your insides there. We're used to white hot crisis moments, right? Where, in fact, we need to secure our next source of food. We need to worry about the changes in the weather, the season, the harvest, and predators attacking us, that sort of thing. Yeah, that sort of that existence for which we're pretty much hardwired for, which we've really only changed within this last small fraction of our existence. Yeah, it's having great implications, and there's feedbacks. There's possibilities of breakouts and uprisings there, and I thought that was better better portrayed in the film version there. And my friend, as he said, yeah, a lot of that had to do with the direction, just how they were portraying the moments of revelation and psychedelic, just altered mind states, right? And whereas a lot of people, yeah, this movie is infinitely quotable, and much of that does come from the text, but they tweaked it a bit too, just to sort of better the delivery. Um, yeah, for most people, it's the rules of Fight Club. They can cite them from memory. I can too. I choose not to. Because to me, the best lines of the film and their counterparts in the book, again, like I said, they're tweaked a bit, uh, would probably have to do with Tyler explaining where soap first came from and how he's now turning this into a very symbolic ritual for Cornelius. He says to him, "Soap was made from the ashes of dead heroes, like the first monkey shot into space. Without pain, without sacrifice, we'd have nothing." And it tells him also, um, "Our fathers were our models for God. If our fathers failed, what does that tell you about God?" And that there, that really spoke volumes as to their characters, because yeah, Cornelius and his imaginary friend here, they both shared stories about how, yeah, their fathers took off when they were young. They sought approval from them later in life and advice and guidance, and really got nothing other than just, do what's expected of you, right? You're finished school, get a job. You're done, you got a job, get married. So, yeah. And of course, you finish high school, go to college. It's important you do, because I didn't. And yeah, all of this really did fit together. It was really quite beautiful. One thing that Palahniuk did portray really well in the book, though, is he spelt that out a little bit more. It's like we're the middle children of history. We are basically, yeah, God's middle child, the one that doesn't get the attention, the one who really doesn't seem to have a purpose. So you can do one of two things. You can either fade into obscurity, go off, suffer in silence or whatever, just accept the lack of recognition, the lack of attention, or you can act out. And so that was the purpose of mayhem was to act out and make society and God, although, yeah, pretty clear that Tyler Durden, Cornelius, and Chuck Palahniuk, they're hardcore atheists. So, yeah, that's just metaphorical. We're the middle children, the neglected ones looking for attention. And again, a lot of white rage there. Working stiffs, working white guys feeling like they're the disadvantaged of society or whatnot just because they're having trouble finding meaning in their lives and they're bored. Yeah, it's like, what exactly makes you so jaded and violent here? It did seem to be very much that 90s ethos of just looking for something to fight for. And that's probably the biggest irony of this book. It's like, yeah, each and every one of these guys was looking for a conflict to measure themselves against. And yeah, they found it in the form of boxing, but what they really needed, it seemed, was a big fat reality check, kind of stuff that came about a decade later with, yeah, war on terror, massive economic downturns, and yeah, COVID and other such calamities. Yeah, if your life is boring, basically, the message of the book, I feel, should be if your life is boring to the point where you feel the need to really screw things up and create some conflict in your life, ooh, you need a hobby. You need help. You need to do something there because you have no idea how good you have it. Anyway, um, and yes, also very much like the ending of the film, where in fact, yes, how they are targeting the basis of this society, because as I said, they translated the message into more of a yeah, more of a social commentary there, right? It's like we are not trying to get God's attention so much as we are trying to really achieve some sort of breakthrough on what the hell it means to be living in a civilized society. And Tyler went ahead and said how in the world he envisioned, right? He I don't recall all the lines about it there, but it's like you're climbing reeds that dot the Sears Tower. You're looking down upon an abandoned highway where people are laying out strips of venison to dry in the sun. You're wearing leather clothes that last for the rest of your life. He's looking to revert to something more primitive, more earlier in human history, because he feels that's the real life. That's what it is to be alive for real, not dependent upon power structures, hierarchies, and systems of production, consumption, and finding your identity based on your objects. And of course, the scene where he breaks the fourth wall and says all that. You are not the car you drive. You are not the contents of your wallet. You are not how much money you have in the bank. You're not your fucking khakis. And the frame just starts shaking. Yeah, you are the all singing, all dancing crap of the earth. All of that really sort of, I felt that resonated very well. And so this is a good example of a adaptation, a situation where the adaptation was better than the novel, in my opinion. And as I said, my friends, so possibly others. The same was true of Heart of Darkness and Apocalypse Now. In some cases, they're a film director, just knows how to take the essence of what's being said there, and also, what's being alluded to, but not really said enough, not said loud enough. It's not developed enough, and developing it further. And those are two clear examples. And a third example is this Blade Runner, aka Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? This was, on its own, it is a very good read. It's very interesting. It's classic Philip K. Dick, and its adaptation into the film Blade Runner. There's actually a bit of a funny story as to why it picked up that title. It seems completely unrelated to anything in the story, but sounds cool, and it was accepted. And the film itself, Ridley Scott's early masterpiece, it really managed to define a new genre for science fiction. Philip K. Dick was always known for being sort of a dark and gritty new wave writer, but through the material A lot of his material has been adapted into full-length films, even if they're short stories. And that includes We Can Remember It For You Wholesale, Paycheck, and what else? There are a few others. And in any case, this being the perfect example there too, is that yeah, the movie did bear a some resemblance to the book. It certainly used the thematic elements, the ideas, but then it went in a rather significant different direction, and it ended up just completely characterizing the cyberpunk genre. It practically put its stamp on it, even though there were many sources and so forth. And yeah, there's several funny anecdotes associated with all that there. So yes, I've decided I'm going to do Blade Runner next. And boy, expect a lot of nerd alert moments because that is definitely, yeah, that is a cult film that I definitely very much love and will come back to many times over. And the book I had to read, of course, to see the source material, much like Fight Club, much like Heart of Darkness. And yeah, all three cases, I felt that people who adapted it, their vision was honestly more appealing. But it is, of course, that their visions never would have really been able to manifest were it not for the author's original contribution. So yeah, in summary, Fight Club book, mixed feelings. It is interesting. It certainly sets up an interesting story, but it is very 90s and it is dark in a way that becomes perverse and like ugly, violent in some ways, and by no means like disgusting or anything like that. It's just if you actually think about what the author is saying, it's like, what are you encouraging here? You should be concerned about what you're encouraging. People who saw the movie alone seem to think the message was let's go punch each other. But this seems to be that the message is that, yeah, we should be forming domestic terrorist cells. And, well, if you got to break a few eggs to make an omelet, what the hell, huh? Yeah. So that's what I respected about the film there, where it was like, we're not intentionally killing anyone. One of our guys died. Yes, we're blowing up stuff and blowing up buildings, but they've all been clear to people because those are our people. So yeah, done with that. Next time, I'll be talking Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, and like I said, several of Philip K. Dick's short stories books have been adapted into movies. Screamers was the other one, and I believe it was called Type 4 was the name of the book, and the film was called Screamers. Another really good adaptation. So I'd like to focus on this, but also talk a little about that. It's sure to be fun. So look for that in the coming days and weeks. And once again, thank you for listening. Bye-bye.